Our employee handbook is the first resource for when you have policy and policy related questions. Ignite is our shared drive, and you can find the handbook in shared employee resources, employee handbook. It'll always have the most up to date and current version, and it is periodically updated as well. We'll go through some of our handbook highlights, such as harassment and offensive behavior, leaves of absence, paid time off, employee political activity, promotion and job posting, our volunteer policy, and sick and safe time. These of course are not comprehensive of what our handbook has for policies, but it is just a brief high-level overview. So harassment and offensive behavior. We do have 2 states at this moment that also have harassment and offensive behavior training that is specific to their states. That is California and Illinois. So if you are in either one of those states, you will be receiving an additional harassment and offensive behavior training from your state. But some examples of this include any request or pressure to grant sexual favors, use of offensive or demeaning terms, remarks, jokes, gestures, or pictures, threats or other forms of intimidation, persistent intrusion or disturbance. So employees do have the responsibility to immediately report all of these incidents or any of these incidents of harassment to the director of human resources or a human resources staff member. And that all reports of harassment or offensive behavior will be investigated immediately and thoroughly. And anyone found to have engaged in this behavior will be disciplined up to and including termination. Leaves of absence. So these leaves of absence apply to those full-time and regular employees. These do not apply to temporary employees. And other forms of leaves are detailed also in the employee handbook. So we have our paid adoption and parenting leave. So employees who become parents and are not eligible for short-term disability may receive up to 2 weeks or 80 hours of paid leave. The leave must be used within 1 year, and it is also to be used in increments of 8 hours or 4 hours. Family medical leave is one of the most well-known and widely known leaves of absence. So the eligibility requirements are that you must be employed for at least 12 months and worked a total of 1,250 hours in those preceding 12 months. This can last up to 12 weeks, provided you return your medical certification and employee notifications in a timely manner. It is unpaid, but your short-term disability and your short-term disability insurance and paid PTO and floating holidays actually can be used during this time as well. This is to care for your own serious health condition or that of a family member, to care for your child following birth, adoption, or foster placement in your home, or you're called to serve in the armed forces. We also have a bereavement leave policy. So this is up to 3 days paid leave to attend to matters involving the death of a family member. You must inform your supervisor if you intend to be gone for bereavement leave. And Human Resources does need to approve if it's outside of what is defined as family per the handbook. So if it is, then certainly connect with your supervisor, and then that approval must be granted also by Human Resources. And then you must add a comment in your timesheet for who you are taking the bereavement leave for. Paid time off and floating holidays. Again, this is for regular employees, not temporary employees. So there is no waiting period before an employee can begin to take PTO time or PTO. So time off requests are entered into CBIZ and approved by your manager. You will begin accruing right away on your first paycheck. PTO will stop accruing at a maximum limit. So accruals will resume once some time is taken. That maximum limit is set in the employee handbook. It is 40 hours over what your typical accrual would be. So if you do get to that accrual level, you'll just stop accruing. You won't lose any time unless you don't take any time. So It's always important to have time off and to step away for a little bit just to recharge and refresh. So once approved, you will add your PTO plans to your calendar so everyone knows where you are and if they can schedule meetings on your calendar or not. And then also, floating holidays, you do receive 2 per calendar year. So mostly you will hear about our fiscal year, which runs from 8/1 to 7/31. However, floating holidays are in a calendar year, so from January 1 to December 31st. And if you don't use your floating holidays within that time frame, 1/1 to 12/31, you will lose them. But there will be 2 more replenished the following year. I always just recommend it would be a good practice to use the floating holidays before you use your PTO, just so you can let your PTO accrue. Which is our best practice tip. Employee political activity. So we are subject to the Federal Hatch Act. Employees and members both. So this act prohibits employees from campaigning for candidates for public office or holding office in a political party while on duty, representing Reading and Math Inc., or engaged in other professional organization activities or transactions. So of course, political activity is very important. We do encourage it, just not on organization's time. Why? Because if an employee is caught engaging in any of these activities, we could lose federal funding, which accounts for about 70% of our funds.